So I'm Girish Shirodkar. I'm a partner with PwC Strategy and we have been working in lot in the whole area around sustainability, ESG, uh, in the oil and gas space. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic around decarbonization and especially how to achieve that through enabling of CO2 EOR. There's a lot of activity happening on this across the globe, and it's a very critical topic. You would all have heard a lot about the net zero targets, which are being taken up by various countries. Uh, but I was just looking at how many of these countries are really talking about gross zero emission levels by 2050 or 2060. Uh, and really, the answer is zero. None of the large countries or none of the countries is really talking about zero emissions. So, how are we going to eventually achieve net zero? And that's really going to happen uh, through capturing some of the CO2 which many of the industries are going to be emitting, and then using it either in some of the usage industries or sequestering it back inside the earth. So fundamentally, uh, almost 30 to 40% of the CO2 emission levels which are currently there need to be eliminated through capture and sequestration, not just through reduction or shift to renewables. So that is where the importance of the CO2 EOR comes into play. So today we'll quickly understand the importance of CO2 EOR, the overall value chain and the cost which we currently see. How can India contribute in this whole process, and some of the policy support which would be required going forward. So overall, when we look at it, India is a major emitter of CO2. And we have a number of high carbon industries. Our power sector is dependent upon coal, and many of our industries, iron and steel, cement, refineries, are also heavy polluters from a CO2 perspective. Uh, we are sort of the third largest emitter of CO2 currently, and hence a lot of pressure coming on India as well to commit to a net zero target and eventually get reductions down to a much lower level. Now, what is the world doing towards being able to manage the overall CO2 sequestration and capture? So, globally, EOR is now becoming a major user of the captured CO2. And these are the consumption of by sectors of CO2. Urea turns out to be the largest sector, but really this is an part of an intermediate process where CO2 is first released and captured in the process of manufacturing NH3, ammonia, and then it is sort of used again as you go into the production of urea. So that's not really a relevant sector. It's actually a net emitter of CO2 in terms of the overall fertilizer or urea production. The biggest user of CO2 is really the enhanced oil recovery space. And today, almost 80 million tons of CO2 is being injected back into the earth for this purpose. There are other smaller industries like beverage and food, but that quantum still remains very small. And out of the 80 million tons, about 33% of it is currently coming from captured CO2. The remaining comes from natural sources. So this shows how critical the whole sector around EOR is there from a CO2 capture and usage perspective. Now, given this, there is a significant push globally towards various large-scale projects on the CO2 EOR side, and these are happening across various different countries. So, if I look at the left-hand side chart, US has taken a big lead, especially in their unconventional plays where they are using a lot of natural CO2 to eventually increase production from unconventional sources. But a lot of large power plants, refineries, natural gas processing also leads to a lot of CO2 capture happening, as well as iron and steel production, which are all very CO2 intensive. So lots of projects being tried out across various countries, United States, Canada, China, Brazil, which are looking at it. And if I look at the right-hand side, naturally, this is leading to a significant increase in the number of CO2 EOR projects, which is the pink-colored bar in the overall chart. So that's really seeing the highest increase because this is something which is both benefiting the environment as well as improving overall oil production. So then comes the question of what is the best and the least cost capture of CO2. And these are the various industries that we talked about. Things like natural gas processing, where CO2 is part of the gas and you need to separate it out. It's in that sense the easiest and the cheapest. Typically, wherever you have a higher concentration of CO2 in the end outputs or end flue gases, that is where the cost of capture becomes lower. And something like a hydrogen manufacturing units, where CO2 is one of the main sort of byproducts, is where the cost is typically low. Amongst the other areas, power generation and refineries are two of the other areas. Refinery has the hydrogen manufacturing units either through a gasifier or a SMR. Most of the Indian refineries use the SMR process, which is slightly captured from a carbon capture, CO2 capture perspective. Some of the newer, some of the plants like Reliance is using a gasifier, and some of the other refineries are also doing pilots on a gasifier, which leads to much cheaper production of gas, but it is more carbon intensive. And eventually you can also capture that carbon in a lot more cost efficient manner. The next is power generation, and where again a lot of research is happening to reduce the overall cost of capture. The other challenge is in terms of transportation, and transportation sort of starts becoming costly over longer distances. The onshore cost typically would be about $3 if you're doing large scale 5 MT of CO2 transfer every year. But as the distance increases, the cost starts going up, and that is where it becomes important to have the source and sink both being close to each other. That makes it very efficient in terms of being able to integrating them and to be able to use it for the EOR perspective. The last one is storage or usage, and this is a lot of cost with regards to sort of injection which goes into it. It depends a lot upon the specific field where either you are storing it or where you will be injecting it for the EOR purposes. So identifying the right set of fields where you can inject it becomes very important, and a detailed study on that becomes critical. Now, with evolving technology, the cost of capture is starting to reduce, and that's where the future potential comes into play. This is from a power generation perspective, where the cost sort of has gone down by almost 60% over the last 5-year period. And this is mainly happening through newer technologies, a lot of larger economies of scale which comes into play, as well as lower finance costs, because this is now becoming more mature, and lot more support coming in from governments and from the whole sustainability trends which are there. And this sort of reduction will continue to play in, and we need to be a critical part of this whole journey, as we have a lot of CO2 coal-based power plants for which long-term sustainability is important through the CO2 capture. Now, coming to the relevance of all of these from an India perspective, India has been sort of facing the challenge of the domestic crude production stagnating. The other part is to be able to enhance this production. Tertiary recovery, which is really coming from doing CO2 EOR, can be very critical and useful to be able to achieve that. The second very interesting part is about the whole concept around reducing the carbon emission per barrel of oil being produced. So currently, typically, if you produce a barrel of oil, the overall emissions from it is about 0.51 tons of CO2. If you are able to inject back some of the CO2 in the EOR process, then the effective net emissions from a barrel of oil goes down by almost 50%. So this is in that sense a lot more greener oil that we are looking at. And when one looks at some of the global trends like the European Union, which is going to now thinking of charging carbon taxes on the products which are being imported into European Union, something like a green oil like this could be very, very interesting and useful, and potentially also creating a premium for low carbon fuels. Again, India has a good overlap. The red dots are the various different locations of our assets, of our oil and gas producing assets. And we see we have a lot of power plants or refineries or fertilizer plants around all of these assets. So we have a good sort of match between the sink and the source, and hence you will be able to link them up together with comparatively smaller pipeline. Yeah. And lastly, we start coming to the policy which is being used globally to support overall CO2 EOR. And I think some of the important ones are around the tax credits. So US, Canada, for example, gives about $35 per ton of CO2 that is captured and then used commercially, say for an EOR perspective. Or there is a lot of grant support. So many of the new investments which are happening, especially in something like the Northwest Sturgeon Refinery, for example, where half the investment actually is received as grant for the whole project. And there are various other locations where the government is sort of investing for the initial pilots which are being run. So some of these could be very relevant from an India perspective to ensure that we're able to ramp up our initial pilots and the overall learning curve. And these are being tried out by most of the sort of oil-rich as well as demand-intensive countries. And so what would it mean from a India perspective? So for us going forward, one is that we need to have a sort of detailed understanding of the EOR potential in the various oil fields which are there. And ideally, government should provide that initial funding to identify oil field assets across the country which could benefit from CO2 injection and enhanced oil recovery. Second is researching novel ways to reduce cost of capture. And we should focus it on the high emission sectors such as power and refineries, and especially R&D funding mechanism for CCUS, carbon capture and usage research at national universities, as well as government grants to be provided for some of the initial pilots, which can help integrating the source, transportation, and the sink. From a medium-term perspective and a more sort of long-term mechanism, there needs to be a clear devising of a pricing support mechanism to ensure viability of these projects. So something similar to a US policy where there is an emission credit available of some USD $30 per ton of CO2, which is used for EOR purposes, and which will partly cover the cost of capturing CO2, because today, even now, it's about $50 kind of a cost. And the remaining cost perhaps can be recovered in some ways by the using company, which is the oil and gas players, where waiving of royalties and cesses, which are currently charged by the government on the additional oil which is getting produced through the CO2 EOR process. So a combination of this will help promoting a lot of these projects and helping us on the overall learning curve. Over the medium term, as sort of to ensure availability of this CO2, as India's emission targets get firmed up, it will become important to also cascade them down to the emitting industries, and hence there should be sort of some kind of a mandate for capturing part of their CO2 emissions, which can then be used from a EOR perspective. Something similar is happening from a green hydrogen manufacturing perspective, where various industries are mandated to use green hydrogen. So a similar stuff can be done from a CO2 capture perspective, which eventually is very critical from our long-term goals. So that's the way forward, which will help us in achieving better overall environment sustainability and focusing specifically on how CO2 EOR can help in achieving that. Thank you.